What is up, everybody, and welcome to the All-NBA Show, part of the All-City Podcast Network. I'm your host, Adam Mares, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, the best in the biz, Tim Legler. Legs, maybe the best night of basketball in the NBA this season was last night, the start of the NBA Cup, and we got a fantastic game between the Warriors and Mavs. I can't wait to talk to you about it. How you doing?
I'm great, man. I just want to start off and say rarely will you get a game that has that kind of hype and anticipation for a variety of reasons and live up to it to that extent. And not just because of Klay's return and he played very well, all of the elements in the game and what that gave us, man, that's as good as it gets in this league. So we were very lucky to be entertained to that extent for 2.5 hours last night. Can't say enough about it. And there's so many different angles we can take. I don't know where you want to start.
Oh, man, we're going to start with the drama of it, but just to set the stage for the show, was the NBA Cup started last night, so there were a lot of games, all of them with wacky courts. We got Joel Embiid's return, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, as well as Josh Hart's triple-double. We're also going to talk about the Hawks beating the Celtics without Trae Young, and, of course, a meltdown with the Miami Heat that we have to talk about as well. But we're going to start with the top story, which is, of course, I love the way you set the table for this. It was such a wonderful mix of emotions. Like, sports should bring out a lot of emotions, not just one. It should bring out a lot of emotions. This one had it all, and the lead up to this game, I thought was melodramatic. I almost was annoyed at the lead up to this game and the storyline of Klay's return. But the game itself delivered on all of that drama, and it actually was great. And so the first thought was, this was a breakup. And it's rare that you get a breakup with this much tension. And I actually felt like all the things surrounding this game and then the game itself actually had a nice amount of tension to it, like meaningful tension to it. So as much as it was a sweet moment, the return, it was also a bitter moment in that the teams seemed to take this one really, really seriously.
They did. And there's a lot of statements within the game that guys made, right? And some of them were clearly involving the principal characters here that we're talking about, Steph, Draymond, Klay at the top of the list. But then there were other guys too that were impacted by all of this movement and opportunity that they're getting now in places they find themselves in. And, a guy like a Buddy Hield, right? So he's also involved in this because it's like, yeah, okay, you lost Klay, but you got me now, and he's having an incredible year. But let's start with Klay. And beginning of the game was really interesting to me because they did something they haven't done all year. Dallas came down the floor the first 2 or 3 trips, and it was like, we're going to Klay. We're going to isolate Klay. And I thought it was an interesting decision right off the bat. Clearly you want to get him going, but that's not the way to get Klay going. Not at this stage of his career. And so I thought that was unusual for them to kind of do that. It's one thing if Luka is like really just kind of intent on getting Klay some shots, but he's going to operate high ball screen, draw 2, and then hit him with a pass and get him a couple of open threes. They were isolating him like in that weird mid-post area, 15 feet. He was trying to like back guys down. It was a strange start to the game for him. I can only imagine what he was feeling in this moment. And I will say it's Adam, it's a little bit still for me. I'm a guy that I wanted to see Klay Thompson play for the Golden State Warriors his entire career. I wanted to see, not that necessarily he and Steph would have retired together, because you just never know, when they get into their late 30s, who's breaking down physically. So there's no, you can't guarantee they play their last game of their careers together in the same uniform, which would be incredible, right? That'd be epic, but that probably wouldn't happen. But still, the fact that Klay ended up somewhere else, I still think is a little bit sad for me, man, because we don't get it very often that number one, individual players stay with one franchise their entire career, but not pairings like this. 2 guys that's synonymous and linked together for that long in a very particular way. and mainly around shooting. And to split them up was kind of sad. And it ironically, Klay ends up in a spot where he's going to have an opportunity to contend. And a lot of times that's not the case when guys move on. So that's the first thing that stood out to me was like, wow, this is weird for Klay. And
Yeah.
it's got to be such a surreal experience showing up in that building in a different uniform. And the reception was incredible that he got, as you would expect. And he played very well, probably his best game of the year. And he really answered the call there. But at the same time, the whole time I'm watching the game, I'm thinking like, this is really bizarre that this guy's wearing another uniform. And I don't know. I think, there's got to be a great part of sadness on the part of the Golden State Warriors fan base, regardless of how good their season has gone to this point.
There's no question, and that's why it was so bittersweet. And it made me think last night, because I think that in a weird way, this might be it's a top 3 breakup of the 21st century. I think Kobe and Shaq splitting is like, that's always going to be one of the big, 2 players going different directions. You could talk about the Thunder. I want to talk about them in a second with Durant and Westbrook splitting up. But the new CBA lends itself to breakups. That's the reality of it. If the Warriors couldn't keep it together, and the Warriors reached the highest peak, I think, of the 21st century of any team, they are probably the greatest team in the last 25 years. And if they break up in a way that feels kind of weird and sad, what hope is there for anyone else? And I was sitting here thinking, the new CBA is putting pressure on teams. The Nuggets have a Jokic, Murray, MPJ trio that have been playing together now for 8 years. The Thunder have Shea, Chet, and J-Dub, who you look at and go, okay, they're going to be together forever. You never know. And then you even look at the Celtics with Tatum and Brown. They're a apron team. And you look at that and go, it's hard to envision them separate, but maybe this is the reality. You almost think of breaking up lesser teams or this or that, but iconic teams that you think of as all pieces of a part of a whole, maybe this is the new reality. And we're always going to start seeing these breakups over time.
Yeah, I think that is going to be the way it goes. We'll still get that rare player every now and then that's going to stay with one organization. I don't think Steph Curry will ever play another game in another uniform. And it's early, but I'd say the same thing about Jokic. I don't think Jokic is ever going to play another game. And these guys are rare, man. It's just not the way guys think anymore. Probably true for Giannis. I'm not sure exactly yet, but probably true for him. But I don't know that you can say that about anybody else. And it's just almost like you have to accept going in. That's how it's going to be. So here we go. Klay ends up in another spot. The great part about this for all of us is and look, Golden State, this is not just a good start. This is a very good team for a number of reasons. And they might have as many signature wins as any team in the league, or more than any other team in the league with the teams they've beaten. So let's start there. Golden State's back in the mix. Do I think they can win a championship? Probably not. But they're absolutely relevant in the West. I think they'll be in the top 4 in the West most of the year, if not the entire season. Dallas also went to the finals. I think they're better than they were. Dallas, they haven't played well to start the year, I think primarily because Luka has not been his best to start the season. He was very, very good last night, although he was quiet. The last 15 minutes of the game, he was pretty quiet. But overall was spectacular offensively in this one. He hasn't been good enough for them to be better than their record right now. Both of these teams, though, in the mix, and that's the great thing for us, because if we get more of this, and I think they play each other 3 more times, I believe, and who knows, maybe we get a 7-game playoff series. How good would that be? Because there's also, by the way, it's not just about Klay against the Warriors. It's Luka against the Warriors, too. There's something that hangs in the air there that creates an added tension to the game. So we're lucky that we're going to get this. And I was watching this game last night saying, if I could do this, Adam, every night of the season, if you gave me that game or a game of that caliber level every night to watch, I think I'd be the luckiest guy in the world that I get to do this for a living. That's what I was thinking while I was watching the game, because everyone played. Let's start with that, Adam. Everybody was out there. So that is rare enough that we get that. Yeah. All stars and even role players, like full complement of guys, like this is incredible. Like, we don't really get that. And yet we had everybody play. We had splashes of spectacular offensive ability. We had great defense, played on both ends of the floor at critical times. And then we had an unreal shot making to close the game, and what Steph did at the end of the game. So the game had everything that you want from an entertainment value for an NBA fan.
We start breaking down some of the things that happened in this game. So there's one play, and I'll bet you'll remember it, that happened in the fourth quarter, about 7 minutes left, that was so perfectly indicative of both where the Mavericks are at and where the Warriors are at, which to me, they look like the Warriors we've gotten used to, just different pieces, but operating very similarly. 7 minutes to go. The Mavericks played 22 seconds of phenomenal defense, switches and rotations and everything else. And Curry cuts through the lane and then exits out to the right corner. Luka's guarding Moody, and Moody is setting basically that exit screen, right? And slips it right to the basket, and Draymond hits him for a wide open layup because Luka, for 22 seconds, he's locked in, kind of gets on his heels a little bit, sees Steph is coming out, and both defenders jump out at Steph Curry. Moody has a wide open layup. That is, to me, the three-point shots, all that stuff. The Warriors broke teams because they would use 24 seconds of the shot clock, constantly move, and break you by getting a wide open layup. And that was the fourth quarter. And that play, I just was like, that's the Warriors. That's what they do. They seem to always understand how to keep the ball moving. And if your defense is not playoff ready, you're going to give up painful backdoor wide open layups in crunch time. And that play stood out to me a lot.
And there was other examples of that exact type of action throughout the game. And there's so much of what the Warriors are doing offensively that reminds me a lot of the way that they played during their championship years. And it's Klay Thompson's not there anymore. They've got different parts in those spots. Draymond has had a resurgence offensively to me. He is so much more energized and electric and a weapon than I think he has been in recent years. And that's a big part of this, obviously, because not only the passing, because he's always had that, but there were times over the last couple of years, Draymond became a complete afterthought as a scorer. Right. And to where you didn't have to guard him. And he wasn't comfortable shooting the ball from three. It was almost like you knew it was going to be a missed shot. So he stopped looking at the basket. It's an important element that he has to shoot them enough, just enough that you can make teams pay, because he's always going to get the other stuff, like the fake dribble handoff, turn the corner, go in for a layup. He's going to get stuff in transition. He's going to get the passing with the back cuts and the splits. But that last component, like, he has to look confident when he steps out there because he's going to get opportunities to shoot the ball. He just looks so energized by this group. And I think for him, he probably feels like, Adam, hey, man, I'm on a team that can actually contend again. And he said it very early in the year, coming out of preseason when they went undefeated. He said, yeah, don't mess around and let us win another one. Basically meaning we're back in it, man. We're back in the mix. You know, everybody wrote us off, dismissed we'd ever be a championship caliber team in the Steph Curry era again. We're back. And that's kind of the tone he's taken this season, the confidence level, the swag. And as a result, they got wins against Boston, Oklahoma City, and Dallas. I mean, those are three teams that are on a very short list of teams that could win the whole thing. Yeah. And they've beaten all of them. So I'm looking at Draymond last night as well. He didn't put up the super gaudy stat line, 11.7 boards, 6 assists. I mean, that's a below average night probably for Draymond Green in his career, but his impact was all over the place, and his defense and some of the plays he made defensively in this game were absolutely incredible. The block shot on the 3-point shot, when he blocks it, saves it, leads to a dunk at the other end. The play he made on Gafford at the rim, which was a really important play in the fourth quarter. We went up and met him on a dunk.
Flexed on it a little.
Compared to Gafford. Yeah, incredible. Like, so Draymond, to me, was a big part of this, even though the storyline was about Klay and Steph and Luka, and Kyrie was smoking hot coming in. Draymond had a huge, huge part in this game and why the Golden State Warriors came out on top.
I want to stay on the offense for a second because I love the point about defense. It's actually as big a reason as anything is why I'm buying the Warriors. Sounds like I'm higher on them than you are, but I'm buying them. But one of the reasons I'm buying them, we talked about this with Denver. You lose a little bit of talent, but the guys that you replace that talent with are more reliant on the great players. You look at Denver's roster, Christian Brown, Peyton Watson, Julius Randle. They know they can't freelance out there. They don't have the freedom. They don't have the leash to do it. So they're constantly playing through Jokic, which means Jokic's usage goes up, which is a good thing. I think the Warriors are the same thing. And I think one of the reasons you're recognizing a pep in Draymond step this year is because they brought in some guys. They maybe lost some guys, including Klay Thompson, who maybe wanted to break from the script a little bit. And they have a bunch of guys that are like, if I'm going to play minutes, I have to get with the system. I have to get with the program. Got to cut hard, screen hard, space properly, and defend my tail off. And that's what the Warriors have. They run 11 deep right now, but the guys they are bringing in are all part of the system. And that means Steph is getting to operate a little bit more. Draymond's getting to operate as the fulcrum a little bit more. And sometimes emphasizing who and what you are and what makes you great is better than even having more talent, but de-emphasizing those things. And I think that's what's going on with the Warriors right now.
Yeah, I think I agree with that, and I think that where the most similarities occur when I'm looking at this team and looking at the teams that have contended in the past is the defensive connectivity and energy that this team has is different than what they've had the last couple of years.
Yes.
And you, to your point, and the metrics indicate that. And if you go back and look at the teams that won it, like every year they were doing it on both ends of the floor. They were never a team that simply, bombed you out of the building with all their offensive prowess and their scoring and their shot making, even when they had Durant. Like, that wasn't why ultimately they were going to win a title. It was because they also were a top 5 defensive team. In a couple of those years, they were the number 1 defensive team in the league. And they're back to exhibiting that. Their switchability, their attention to detail on that end of the floor. And also they're getting contributions from like a Trace Jackson Davis, which is important. Like, they needed more athleticism and activity in the middle. They're getting that. Kuminga is a guy now I'm starting to think, okay, look, maybe he's just never going to break through to be that level offensive player on a good team that we thought he could be. He's back coming off the bench. He's got an important role. His defense is probably even more important than his offense on this team. Because they got a lot more balance amongst their role players, and Buddy Hield has picked up a lot of the offense. They don't need Kuminga to get 20 to compete. They did the last couple of years. That's not the case now. They need more on-the-ball pressure, guarding all kinds of guys all over the floor. He's doing that. So I think their defense, to me, and their frenetic energy, and this is a pretty high-scoring game for two teams that I thought really competed defensively every possession last night. Golden State, to me, that's why I'm looking at them, Adam, and I'm saying this isn't just, they got out of the gate quickly like some teams do. No, that's not what this is, man. This is a really good team. Give them credit for rebuilding this thing and giving themselves another chance to be in the mix and make another run at it.
The last thing about the Warriors' offense here, the clutch time was so interesting between these two teams. And again, this was a tougher game in some ways, I think, for Dallas than it was for the Warriors, because the Dallas had Klay. And to your point, you said early they were going to him. I thought even late, and he delivered, by the way. He had a couple nice drives. He did some stuff, but even late, there was a little like, well, do you want to do something with the ball right now? And you kind of attack. But what I thought was interesting is late game offense for the Warriors. New personnel, same story. They run that twist action, and there was a great breakdown by Joe Verret over on, I think, Golden State of Mind blog. There was a great breakdown of what they do, but lots of teams do this. Twist action at the end of the games. Guard-to-guard screen to get the switch you want. In this case, it was Luka Doncic onto Steph Curry. And then a secondary screen to come up, a ball screen, and you can run action out of it. They scored 8 straight points in the clutch. So I should say Steph Curry scored 8 straight points in the clutch off of that action, and it was a different look each time. Because that action, when you get to stack the deck and say, we want these guys defending and these guys operating in the pick and roll, Steph Curry is so good, he knows exactly. One of them was a switch, one of them was a drive, and one of them was a quick 3 right when the big was supposed to step up. If you're a half second late, that's enough daylight for Steph to hit a 3. And I look at that and I go, late game offense is about execution and identity. The Warriors already have the same identity with new personnel. And guess what? Steph Curry hasn't forgotten how to punish you when you don't operate your pick and roll defense exactly perfectly. And that's why I'm buying them. They can score in the clutch because they've done it for 10 years.
Yeah, and look, on a night when Steph Curry has it going, which he had it in this game right from the get-go, so he was hot the entire night. He just was in that rhythm and flow, and you can imagine that was to be expected, the way he was going to dial in and hone in because of the magnitude of the game and Klay coming back and all that. And look, Steph wanted to outshine him, and look, he's going to get more opportunities. He's a better offensive player. I get it. But, Steph, and you could see it when he hit the game winner and some of the words he had for the camera and pointing at his number and holding his jersey and some of the things he was saying to that crowd, right? He was basically saying, look, it's great. Klay's back. Draymond's here even. Steve Kerr sitting over there. But guess what? I built this dynasty. I built this thing. This thing's built around me. And he was reminding people of that. And so, Adam, when he got it going throughout the game, now late game execution on ball screens against him is more important than ever. And he knew the spots he wanted to get to, and it requires perfect execution. It requires perfect personnel that's involved
Yeah,
in
that
some of
too.
those switches and decisions, and they didn't have it. And so he was making shots that he wanted to get. He was hunting that opportunity because of the way that he was feeling, and there was absolutely no doubt whatsoever in his mind where that ball was going to end up. So he took over the game late when he had to. And he delivered, and there's something real. And look, by the way, I'm really lucky because I'm going there Friday night. I'm in LA tonight. I've got Memphis and LA tonight in Los Angeles. And then I travel up the road a little bit tomorrow, and I got Memphis Golden State on Friday night. It's too bad we're not going to get John Morant, but still, I'm going to be in that building because I know the environment in there is as good or better than any environment in the league when the Warriors are playing like this. So I'm very lucky. I'm going to get to sit there and watch Steph Curry. I'm lucky these next two games. I was thinking about it last night, Adam. I get LeBron James tonight and Steph Curry on Friday night, sitting courtside, best seat in the house, watching these two really national treasures, if you love basketball, get to do it again. You never know how many more times you're going to get to call games or see games live where those guys are playing. So I'm really lucky that I'm going to get to be in that building on Friday night to see the Warriors.
That'd be incredible. You also get Luka and Jokic next week, so you have a nice little 2-week run going right now. Some good Western Conference hoops. Going back to the Warriors now. So we talked about their offense executing. Steph Curry, I loved your point about the spots. He knows the spots because that last one he got on Lively, put him to sleep. He drags him right to the top of the key. Warriors space perfectly. And there's no more uncomfortable feeling in the NBA than a center switched out onto Steph Curry with the game on the line. That's the most uncomfortable. And he put him right in the spot. Got him, kind of got him turned around, stepped back, and you knew that shot was in. The moment he got the space, I was watching that and I go, I think he's going to clear space. And once he got the space before he even shot it, you go, there it is. That's the game. And
real quick on that. And here's what he relies on. And it's impossible for a center, particularly a shot blocking, rim protecting center, to not overreact to Steph's jab step. Like that first step he takes off the dribble, like he's going to try to go by you. And now you're going to swivel your hips and turn and retreat because everything in a guy like Derek Lively's mind, Gafford's mind is, I can't let this guy blow by me and get to the rim. Like my job is to protect the rim. So as soon as he puts that little juke move where it looks like he's going to go by, their overreaction to that is all Steph's counting on because now he's going to step back. There's no way a guy that size is going to be able to turn and react quick enough to really get an honest contest on that. Steph knew exactly the shot he was going to get, and he knew exactly what Lively was going to do in reaction to his first move toward the rim, because it's impossible to prevent your body from doing that if you're Lively. That's what you're trained to do your whole life. So, and he counted on that, and he spun him, and he got just enough separation. And at that point, when Steph Curry's that hot and feeling it to that extent, that's literally as easy as a little 5-foot bank shot for just about any other guy in the league.
It's so true. It was automatic, perfect switch. The defense, though, the Warriors to me stood out as well. And one guy in particular, you shouted out Draymond Green, who's unbelievable defensively all the time, and he's been great and re-energized. I like that point. But Andrew Wiggins, Luka had it going in this game for large periods of time, not in the clutch. I thought Andrew Wiggins in the clutch of this game had 2 or 3 possessions where it really mattered, final 3 moments where he just smothered Luka. And unlike the Warriors, who were able to stack the deck defensively and get the matchups they want, I thought Dallas did not. Warriors were very good at fighting through screens and maintaining the matchup that they wanted. And Wiggins just did a couple phenomenal jobs of using his length to contest Luka and force him into bad shots, including a potential, I believe it was a game tire, or maybe it was just to cut it to 1. I thought Wiggins' defense on Luka last night was very impressive.
It was. And look, he's got that sort of combination of wiry strength and length and lateral quickness that it takes to guard Luka. And in some ways, I always feel like when Luka misses, it's all on Luka, because I don't think you can stop the guy from getting what he wants. Like, he's just that good. He's that strong. He's that physical. He's patient. He's got the step back. He can get off whenever he wants. But there are some times when you watch certain guys and you're like, no, that's contributing to Luka right now. Like, he's feeling that guy's presence. I agree with that with Wiggins. Having said that, and I'll even go to the last play of the game, I don't think that Luka played the smartest game in the world down the stretch of this game. And look, the last possession, they go down 3 after the Curry free throws. and they got to go length of the court, no timeouts. They inbound the ball. He's got about 13 seconds to go, something like that. I'm saying to myself, I know Luka's shooting the ball. Everybody in the building knows no matter what, Luka is shooting this ball. So if that's the case, if you're Luka, you've got to be a little bit more of a hurry to advance it to half courts just to buy some more time. You've got two guys on the court that you need to go hunt with a ball screen, because there's no way you can not switch it in that situation. DeAnthony Melton and Steph Curry. Those two guys are on the court guarding other players. If you're Luka Doncic and you know you want to go to the step back three in that moment. Now, maybe he thought that Wiggins was going to foul him, and actually it looked like Wiggins might have been trying to foul him around half court. He was very physical off the dribble, not like overselling it, but like is he trying to foul him? Like, down when you're up three, sometimes that's the strategy. They didn't call it. Luka just goes to that same shot against him, which is a much more difficult shot than get it up a little bit faster. Give yourself maybe 7 seconds left. Now hunt a screen. Force them to switch, because if they don't switch, Luka can drag that a dribble, bring two, and now you got 2-on-1 on the opposite side, and they're shooting all over the court. Somebody might get a wide open three. So Warriors were definitely going to switch a ball screen with Luka Doncic, and now you can do the step back over a smaller guy. That's my point. And it's just cleaner. And he didn't do it. He just came up and everybody went flat. And you saw Kyrie, I don't know if you noticed it, but Kyrie's reaction when Luka shot that ball, his shoulders kind of dropped and just kind of was just like, what was that? Like, what are we doing? And I put that on Luka. Everybody knew he was going to shoot it, and he didn't do anything to make the defense react in a way that might have been an advantage for him. He just went against their best guy to guard him in that moment, and it was Wiggins, and it ends up with an unmakeable shot to try to tie the game.
Yeah. And that's kind of similar criticism that we talked about Dallas over the weekend. So, this is a thing. I will say to Dallas's defense, and Klay Thompson had a good quote about this after the game. He says, "We're still getting to know each other, and I keep telling the guys it's better to go through this stuff early in the season versus game 60. So I know we have a chance to be great. We've just got to stay the course." I think he's right about that. And I think the way the schedule broke out, this game to me marks the end of one chapter of the Mavs this season. This game was hanging over the heads of Klay Thompson for sure, but probably of the Mavericks as a whole. And I think that now that the game's out of the way, now that they're sort of in this spot right around 500, you almost get to reset and say, now let's figure out who and what we are in those moments a little bit better. You weren't going to figure that out last night. You just weren't. That game was going to have its own personality. But the Mavericks, to me, as much as they're 5-6, that's not a great record. I still look at them and go, I think they are just through this chapter that was always going to be difficult for them. And they lost a couple 50-50 games.
Well, we're going to find out. I mean, 5-6 is disappointing. This was the year I was challenging Luka Doncic coming into the season. Get your team into the top 4 in the Western Conference, and you're going to win an MVP. Yeah. That's really how I feel about him. And he has not had the kind of start. I don't think he was in the kind of tip-top physical condition to start the year that he needs to be. They said on the broadcast last night he's been bothered with a groin issue, and I don't know if they're chalking that up to his shooting woes. I don't know, man, because all of a sudden he'll make plays. He had some plays last night where he went with these incredible finishes, acrobatic twisting finishes with English on the glass over guys, and making really difficult shots. And then he'd drive in and miss a shot, and then he would kind of limp a little bit up the court. And, I'm just like, I don't know what to make of Luka sometimes. Like, I don't know, how hurt is he? All I know is he has not shot the ball well enough for a guy that has that kind of usage rate. He has not shot the ball well enough to give them a chance to, because some of these games, they shouldn't be in one possession games in the last 5 minutes. If he's more efficient in the first 45 minutes of the game, maybe they have an 8-point lead where it doesn't matter. It's mattered a lot because these games have been close. He has not been his best. I think he's probably 75% of what he's capable of. And until that starts happening, Adam, they're going to keep losing games. Now, they got a stretch of their schedule coming up. They're 5-6. Like these games, you got to win the next 2 at Utah, San Antonio, and San Antonio at home.
Yeah, you got to win those. Yeah.
You got to win both of those games.
Stabilize.
Then at OKC, no Chet. Okay, you catch a break there. No Hartenstein either. So Let's see how they play in that game. That's a big marquee game. New Orleans at home, they're struggling. So minimum, that's 3 out of 4. You got to win all of those games before they head in to the game that I'm going to call in Denver on the 22nd.
Ooh, that would be good momentum for that game. That would really be an interesting one for that one. Denver has stabilized. If Dallas stabilizes heading into that one, that'll be an all-timer. Lastly, real quickly, because you said you didn't buy the Warriors as contenders. I do. And I'm not saying they're favorites. I just think there's a lot of teams. And right now I look at it and I go, we know this Steph Curry offense works. There's nobody scarier. Honestly, late games, is there anybody scarier than Steph Curry if he gets the tiniest pinhole of daylight? And the defense that they're playing, I buy. So I'm surprised you said you're not buying them as contenders, or maybe you're just not buying them yet.
I'm not there yet. That's all I'm saying. I've been praising them from the beginning. In fact, we can even go back to what I was saying about them when we first started shows back in preseason. I sensed a reset, and I said, there's something good coming out of this. I can feel a lot of positive energy about what's going on with this team right now. Added the perfect piece in Buddy Hield for this system. He's been great. I'm saying not quite yet. Oh. And hey, who knows? Maybe Friday night when I'm sitting there and I watch them up close, I'll have a different opinion coming out of that. I think right now, for me to envision like a parade, that's really what I meant by that. Yeah. Like, could they really do this? Adam, if they were to win a fifth ring, and Steph Curry, which we know he will, Steph Curry will be sensational throughout. Steph Curry, if they win a fifth ring, he will be the finals MVP. That's guaranteed. If they win another ring, where the hell do we put Steph Curry historically if he pulls that off with this group?
Where he'd belong.
Yeah, exactly. So listen, here's and I said it earlier, and I called him this, and I mean it. I said he's a national treasure.
Yeah, he really is.
And listen, man, can you? And I don't want to put this guy out the pasture because the way he's playing, he's still got a lot of juice left, but it's a void that cannot be filled. Yeah. When Steph Curry is no longer in this league. Yeah. And he showed you again why last night.
Most fun player, just so exciting when you're in those tense moments because you just know if he gets the tiniest daylight, it's going in. It's an overwhelming sensation.
Good. Listen, man, maybe. And look, I know they're in the mix. And I just said I think they're going to be top 4 in the West all year. Going from there to, I see them running through a healthy OKC, a healthy Denver, a healthy Boston, like whatever it may take to win it all. I'm not quite there yet. That's all I'm saying. Like let's let this keep going for a little bit. Maybe I'll have a different answer by Christmas, or maybe I'll have a different answer on Saturday morning after I see them Friday night.
Right. Maybe so. That'll make for good shows next week. If you guys are new to the show, we're doing this 4 times a week, talking hoops, man. It's just straight hoops talk. We always are breaking down the games that happen. But even if you're not a fan of the teams we're talking about basketball. Chances are we'll allude to your favorite team sometime throughout the show. So if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're going to take a break. On the other side, we're going to get to the other marquee game, the 76ers and Joel Embiid's debut as they fall to the Knicks. And then later on, the NBA Cup delivered some drama at the end of the games last night. So we'll get to all that more on the other side. First, let me tell you guys about the Game Time app. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. They have the best interface in ticket buying apps. You hop on there and you can look at the entire arena, the entire stadium. It'll have a little map of it with the types of tickets that they have available. So you can pick one just by a list, lowest price or whatever, or you can sort by looking at the stadium and it'll show you exactly where your seat is. And if you're curious what your seat looks like, because you've never been to the stadium before, this arena, they give you a view. You can actually see, this is the view I'm going to have. Can you see the court? Can you see the tunnel? Whatever it is you're trying to look for, so you can test it out. But the best feature they have on the app is that best price or lowest price guarantee. So you click on the button on the very front page and you're not going to be surprised by hidden fees when you go to checkout. Oh, I thought my ticket was $100. I get to check out, it's $160 because of all these hidden fees. You put the all-in price feature on and you'll know exactly what the number is going to be at checkout, so you're not surprised. And then they have last-minute ticket deals, flash deals, zone deals. You could set alerts for a game you're wanting to go to so you can be alerted if prices go down. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code ALLNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply, but create an account and redeem our code ALLNBA. Really helps us out, shows them that you like the show and you're supporting the show by supporting our sponsors. And hey, you get $20 off when you use that code. Download the Game Time app, last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Also want to tell you guys about HelloFresh. The holiday season is around the corner, and we're all looking for ways to spend and stress less. Well, HelloFresh makes mealtime nearly hassle-free with delicious home-delivered, chef-crafted recipes that come together quick and are less expensive than takeout. It's really cool and a really great way if you're trying to get back into the swing of things, or maybe you don't want to gain a bunch of weight around the holidays, eating out last minute because you didn't have time. Let HelloFresh take care of that for you. They send you a box of food that all comes prepackaged really nicely, nice instructions on how to prepare the meal that they have for you. And it's really simple and kind of fun, to be honest with you. If you're not a chef, I'm not a chef, but I've created a couple really good meals, me and my wife cooking together, usually about 15 to 30 minutes prep time. And you're going to have a delicious meal with all healthy ingredients. And what's cool about it is when you sign up for a plan, you can go on every week. They update their menu. So you can pick what it is you want. It's not like they're sending you something. You're like, I'm not in the mood for that. You can go on and they have all these different meal ideas and you can select, I want these 2 or 3 meals. They'll send them to your door and you'll have a great time preparing them. And right now they have this incredible deal. Get 10 free meals at HelloFresh.com/free NBA. It's a different code for this one, free NBA. It's applied across 7 boxes, new subscribers only, and it varies by plan, but that's 10 free HelloFresh meals just by going to HelloFresh.com/free NBA. You can also check the link in the description of the show. Check them out. Really cool product. All right, back here, let's bring Legs back on, and let's talk about the other game here, and a big storyline for this one. Wasn't as good of a game, but a big storyline with Joel Embiid returning. He shot just 2 of 11. He was clearly very rusty. He played in short bursts. He even asked for a sub about 5 minutes into the game. He signaled over to Nick Nurse that he wanted to be taken out. So clearly he is going to have a ramp-up period. But other than that, what stood out to you about this game?
Ramp up period might be the biggest understatement of the century. First of all, let me just start with this.
I'm being charitable here.
I know, I hear you, man, and I'll be a little less charitable. Based on the way he looked last night, I don't think Joel Embiid's ready to play. And I'm kind of wondering what's going on. So he mysteriously isn't ready to start the year, and it was so much ambiguity about that. Left knee management is what they were calling it. No one really got specific about what's going on. Is the guy dealing with swelling, stiffness? What's the problem? He finished the year. He was a little bit banged up when the season ended. He went and played with Team USA, mixed reviews there, had some impact, but early on didn't look really good or super engaged, and then played better as the Olympics went on and had an impact on that team. And then you get a break, and now you should be ready for camp. And they added Paul George. We see all kinds of excitement about the start to their season. And Embiid's not there. And then he says, I'm not playing back-to-backs, which almost seemed like it came from him, not the team.
And they're playing
he made
tonight,
the declaration. I'm just letting y'all know I'm not playing back-to-back. Which was very bizarre. And he's been taking a lot of criticism over that. And then he sits to start the year. And, poor Nick Nurse is out there. He doesn't have Paul George to start the year. Maxey's out there by himself. That's not good enough. Then Paul George comes back. Maxey goes out. And now Embiid joins the fold. And he's nowhere near ready to play. He's not in shape. You said rusty. I mean, I don't even think that's the word. He's not physically close to where he needs to be dominant. Now, we'll see. He's so talented and so unique and overwhelming as an offensive player. Hey, maybe he gets there quickly. Maybe he has 25 in his next game. I don't know, but he didn't look anywhere near ready to play basketball last night. He was winded. He was lethargic defensively. He looked stiff in his movements. He was a basic non-factor in the game on both ends of the floor. Had some plays that, really, especially defensively, his lack of reaction toward the ball. And when he's at his best, I mean, he's one of the real forces in this league at the rim. Didn't have any of that in this game. So after all this time off, even if you're winded, you expect more energy. 4 or 5 minutes. I'm so excited to be out here and I feel great. Let's go. I can't play very long. I might give you 18, 20 minutes, 4 minutes at a time. But while I'm out there, I'm going to be able to go full speed and look like myself. He wasn't even close to that. And as a result, I'm going to say this. No team in the league is further from the best version of themselves than the Philadelphia 76ers. Nobody's even close. Because think about what their ceiling ultimately could be, adding Paul George with a healthy Embiid and a Maxey to the mix, right?
Should be champion.
They're so far from what we think their best version is that this is going to take quite a bit of time. And I want to see how long it takes for Joel Embiid to look like himself, which is an MVP caliber player. And of course, you're still waiting on to get all three of those guys out there together, which they haven't had.
And didn't inspire confidence is definitely one thing I felt. I mean, you definitely are being more critical of him than I am, but that was one of the things is your guy comes back. The team's in a terrible spot, right? I mean, they're playing horrible, 2-7 coming into the game, 2-8 now. But it's like, all right, inspire some confidence. There needs to be an injection of life to this team that, hey, we are good and we can get it going. And you just didn't feel that. Like you said, he looked rusty. He looked clunky. He looked unsure of himself. He gets 11 shots up, 5 of them are threes. He only scored 1 basket inside the 3-point line. So yeah, I would agree that was a rough debut, but more to the point, I watched that game and I go, what's wrong? Because it looks like something is actually wrong with him. Not that he just is coming back slowly.
I agree. I agree. I agree. And by the way, I'm not sitting here saying that there's nothing wrong with the guy. Something is wrong with him. That's my point. Really. There's something wrong with him. Listen, 26 minutes, 3 rebounds. He got 3 more rebounds than I did in that game.
26.
Okay, and the guy's 7'1", 270. He rebounds in his sleep. You get 3 rebounds as a center off missed free throws every game. Yeah. I mean, seriously, he had 3 rebounds. That to me was just telling, and I think actually the biggest sign for me was how unsure he was offensively when he got ISO situations. I mean, he had a play where he ISO'd Karl-Anthony Towns in this game in the first half off the left block where held the ball forever, no double team. He tried to lean into his shoulder just to see if Towns would back up because he wanted to shoot a jumper. Towns didn't really give ground. So then he's like, okay, I guess I got to drive baseline. He drives baseline. Help guy comes over. He's all awkwardly picks the ball up. His feet get tangled, and then he turns, spins out of it, and throws the ball out to the top of the key for a 24-second violation.
Right.
I mean, I'm like, you know what I mean? You remember that play? And I'm saying this guy doesn't feel anything close to what you're supposed to feel in a court. It's not just the layoff and playing competitive basketball. It's been a while for him. There's something wrong with the way he was moving last night that had nothing to do with wind or rust. It had to do with how mechanical his body looked and methodical. And at his best, man, he's just a different caliber player in this league. He might be the single most dominant force in this league as a scorer that this league has. There is no answer for Joel Embiid because of his shooting touch and his power, the combination of the two. And that's why I said, no team in this league is further from their best version than the Sixers. It's that simple. And I don't know when we're going to see that. If this was the Western Conference, they'd be so buried. Like they're already looking at it going, well, we can't be top 3 or 4 at, in the East. In the East, there's enough time that you can get this together and still get probably into the 4th spot. But that's not the case, in the West. And we just got to sit back and wait and see, Adam, how long is it going to take for Joel Embiid to look like himself? And at that point, will Maxey be back? And let's just see. But right now, I'm shelving the Sixers for a while. I don't necessarily need to watch them a whole lot until they get this team closer to full strength.
Well, before we fully move on, they did have one silver lining last night, and that's that Jared McCain I thought was really good.
Oh, man.
Especially late in game. He was hitting his threes. He finished 4 of 10, but I felt like he hit them all in the 4th quarter. And he just, he's kind of short and undersized. I would be more into this guy if he was a little taller, but he makes good plays. He makes good basketball plays off of guys well. He had a relocation in the left corner late in the game that I thought was really brilliant, how he set it up and got the ball. Quick trigger, got it out of his fingertips really quick. So I was impressed with him last night, and that's an important silver lining because if they turn it around, you are going to need to have your 7th and 8th guys that can be contributors, and he looks like he's working his way to being that.
Listen, I was so impressed with him last week when I called the Lakers-Sixers game, and here's what he's got an unusual build, and they even mentioned it on the broadcast last night. He's got the lower body of a fullback in the NFL, and he does, man. This dude's calves.
He does.
He had a band around his calf. Kind of like the same thing you'd wear as a headband. And I'm thinking to myself, that would fit most guys' heads in this league. That's how big this guy's calves are. And his thighs, just like his trunk is so thick. But every time he catches the ball, he is just a natural scorer. He's so confident. He's so young. So to see him this confident this
Yep.
early in his career, I'm thinking like this guy's gonna put up numbers, man. And the Sixers are going to need him as that other
That
off the
part.
ball guy, especially if he really gets to the point where he's very confident in catch and shoot 24, 25 footers. Because right now, he's got these scoop shots that he makes. Every game, he's making a couple of these shots that are so awkward looking, but it's clearly just part of who he is. He's got great touch on the move. He's relentless in the way he comes at you, and he's got great tight spin move. If you cut him off, that's probably his go-to move off the dribble. He goes hard. You cut him off. He's got a really tight, quick spin to get back around you. And now he's shooting a scoop shot at the rim before the help can come. He's a natural scorer. Very impressed.
Yeah.
And here's what's interesting about this. They've been taking a lot of heat since draft night because Dalton Connect was on the board. All right. Dalton Connect was the next pick. And the Sixers took McCain, and everybody, including myself, said, hey, Dalton Connect's the most NBA-ready player.
I still like him.
And the Sixers need shooting.
Yeah.
So it seemed like a perfect fit, and they didn't take him. They took McCain. Lakers get Connect. Look, I love Connect. Connect's going to be fine. But so far, McCain's had a better start here at the beginning of his rookie year than Connect has. And a lot of it's opportunity in the team you're on. And, listen, Sixers have guys missing, so he's getting more opportunity to score. Connect is I think, struggling a little bit with how far out his shots are spaced. You know what I mean? It's not what it was in the preseason when he was playing without guys out there and he had a 30-point game. This is different now, man. Can you take 6 shots in a game and make 3 or 4 of them? If they're spaced out, that's a really difficult thing to acquire, that skill set and mindset. He's working through that. McCain can go right now. McCain can get you, on a bad night, double figures, on a good night, 20. Sixers made a great pick, and he's going to be somebody, I think, if they get everybody back and healthy, second half of the year, McCain is going to be a very important part for this team.
He really looked impressive last night, man. I was impressed. He's got my attention. So I'll be looking forward to kind of watching him going forward. On the other side, we should talk really quickly about the Knicks. Triple-double for Hart, 14 points, 12 rebounds, 10 assists. He continues to be one of the most winning players in the NBA, just does all the winning stuff. And Towns, I thought, was really good, especially early in this game, 21, 13, and 6, going up against Embiid. Probably had a little bit of extra pep in his step for that matchup. And they got out in transition, especially OG Anunoby. They got a handful of steal transition plays, especially in that third quarter when they opened it up. I think it was a 13-0 run. It was a lot of stops leading to fast breaks that got them over the hump. So those were my notes on the Knicks. But what were you impressed with what they did?
I was very impressed with them. First of all, I liked how comfortable Towns looked. Like, that's important, man, because this is a totally different situation he finds himself in. With Brunson, who didn't have a great game, and he rolled his ankle at one point, missed some time, came back into the game. And I love the point they made about him on the broadcast. Like, there's a lot of guys, he started off not making shots, rolling ankle to that extent where you have to leave the floor, go to the locker room. Hey, maybe you call it a night, man. You're not feeling it, not your night. He comes back anyway, retapes, kind of was gimping around a little bit, so he didn't have his typical night. But I wanted to see how comfortable Karl-Anthony Towns looked, and he looked very comfortable. And the role players around those two guys, they look comfortable and they look empowered. And I'm talking about Bridges. I'm talking about Anunoby. I'm talking about Josh Hart. Miles McBride had a huge impact in this game in giving them some offense. He's become a crowd favorite. I was impressed with what I saw to the Knicks. Look, they're 5-5 sitting here. Everybody knows this team is going to be a contender in the Eastern Conference. They haven't had the kind of start to the year that they had hoped, but I think things are pointing in a positive direction. And this was a game they're supposed to win, and they end up winning it going away late. Good on the road, which is a really good sign for them. So, yeah, I think the Knicks, they're not where they want to be, but I think they're getting there.
And they've played, by the way, 7 of 10 on the road. So sometimes you look at the schedule early, it can be unbalanced for teams. Maybe they kind of get some home games here coming up and find a groove. Let's move on to another game, though. The NBA Cup delivered some surprising, and those games we expected to be marquee games. Surprises included the Pistons beating the Miami Heat. And I'm not sure how. I was watching this game on silent. My daughter was watching television. I didn't want to disrupt her. So I'm watching the game on silent, and I couldn't figure out what happened. The Pistons are down. They get a bucket. Spo calls a timeout they don't have. So the Pistons end up winning this game basically off of just mistake after mistake that the Heat made down. Tyler Hero had an incredible shot at the end, but what happened here, Legs? Uncharacteristic.
Very. And let's talk about the play that led to the technical foul. Miami's up 2. Detroit has the ball side out of bounds. taken out. So basically, 3-point line extended over to the sideline. Like that's where the ball's being taken out. Miami's lining up. You got just a couple of seconds left in the game. And I don't understand what Miami was doing because Jalen Duren's on the floor. Jalen Duren is standing at the top of the key. Bam Adebayo is like chest to chest with him. There's 1.9 seconds left. Jalen Duren's not a threat to shoot the basketball from out there.
Yeah.
For some reason, Bam Adebayo is literally chest up against him at the three, basically right around the top of the key area, 3-point line. And now they run a back screen on Bam and roll Duren to the hoop. And look, any coach will tell you, you're expecting to get that 1 out of 100 times. Are you going to get a direct back screen lob at the rim when you're down by 2 running that play? Because that's exactly what Miami's trying to prevent. And if anything, you live with a guy makes a 3 from 30 feet with a hand up over the top. You have to live with that some nights. You're not going to, you've got to take away anything at the rim first. And all that is token action to get a reaction that maybe can free somebody else to come out for a clean look from the 3. That's really what you're going for. Instead, Bam's chest to chest, the back screen is set. Terry Rozier is guarding the screener, and he's worried about leaving the guy setting the screen because that's a guard that's going to pop out for a 3-point shot to win the game. I don't blame Terry Rozier. Could you have gotten maybe a little bit of a chip on Duren, of just a little bump? Maybe, but I also understand being a guard in that situation, you're so nervous about getting hung up on that, and then your guy pops out to win the game. So no communication on the back screen. They throw it in. Duren catches it, dunk, tie game. Spo is so mad in the moment. He's so livid that they just gave that up. And you could see him. He first gestures like damn, and then he goes out on the court and he hits it with like 5 of these.
Instinctually tells the timeout.
Just immediately timeout. One of those like, and then it was so funny because somebody said something from the bench. At this point, Spoelstra's 15 feet out on the court. Somebody from the bench said something to him. Do you see him real kind of coyly try to run back over to the bench like he didn't do that? Really? It was too late. Man. The referees huddle up. They're like, no, what are you going to do, man? The guy, here's the thing. If Spo had done it without going onto the court and gave just kind of like one of these and just 1 or 2 of those even, there's a good chance the referees would have acted like they didn't see it. But he's out there literally in the middle of the lane signaling time. What are you going to do? You've got to acknowledge it. They do. No timeouts, technical foul. They lose the game. So the Heat, man, is sitting here now at 4-6, and that's when you got to get. And I'll say this: I said it about Detroit. I'll continue to say that's the most improved team in the NBA.
Yeah, they're impressive. They're impressed. They're kind of fun. They're actually kind of a fun team fun up and comer. I will say it is funny because yesterday's show we went in on the Timberwolves. And the Heat got the Timberwolves with that weird formation, sideline out of bounds. They sneak in and get a layup. And now it was the Heat's turn to get suckered off of almost the exact same situation, not quite as extreme, but exactly what you're talking about. Lastly, real quick before we get out of here, am I bringing this up just because my guy Dyson Daniels led the Atlanta Hawks over the Boston Celtics on a road cup win? No Trae Young? Is that
my answer to that question is yes. That's why you're bringing up Dyson Daniels, because it is your guy. And I know you like a book. You wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is scour your guy's box score. That's what you do, man. You got your little list of guys and you go there first. And if one of them does something special, we're going to talk about your guys the next day. But no, give him credit, man. That's a great win. Dyson Daniels was phenomenal. I know you've always liked Dyson Daniels. Probably
always have, man. Always have.
But he had a big night, so give him credit.
So no Trae Young. What's interesting though about this game is no Trae Young, and you get a nice defense from the Atlanta Hawks team. I thought Jalen Johnson, Zach Ricochet was really good in this game, but Dyson Daniels 6 steals. He leads the NBA in steals. He's almost ready to break a 30-year record for steals in a game. I think he's off by 0.1 steals per game right now. He just has a knack for it. But what surprised me about this one was this felt like you don't have your star. Everybody plays a little bit harder and better and whatever, but you get to crunch time and it's like now you need your star because you got to generate looks. They didn't generate good looks in the clutch, but they made tough shots. I mean, a lot of guys made some really tough shots and it ended up being enough to get the Celtics.
And look, you know, the Atlanta Hawks are sitting there at 5-7. They're, coming into the game 4-7.
I want to believe so bad.
Yeah, I know, and I know you do, and I'm a huge Jalen Johnson guy, and I think it's a lot
He's
of it's going to
great.
come down to like how quickly does he get to that next level, right? And he's getting there because
Triple double.
he's so talented, man, so talented. But I just think they're he's not close enough to becoming what he will be to make them a team that I see really as super interesting in the Eastern Conference. But look, it's a great win. It's a great win for them. And on a
Yeah.
night when you're not expecting that, they come out of there with a W against one of the best teams in the league.
The Hawks and the Pelicans have my favorite role players and my least favorite stars. I'm just
Wow, that's a great way to put it, man.
yeah, and that's the tough part about it. But
You
I
know
just
what? One day we should do that. We should do that'd be a fun show. We both draft, I don't know, 3 stars each.
yeah,
And then we plug in role players from around the league to build the
for
perfect
those
team.
guys to build around it. I like it.
And
Maybe Friday show because there's no games
we'll
Thursday.
we'll have parameters around it. So like the 3 stars, obviously that can be anybody we want. But then there has to be parameters about like what we consider that next guy's level to be. Like you can't be
Like
another 20-point
star.
scorer. Right?
Yeah,
Exactly. It's got to be
yeah.
specifics. But that would be a lot of fun because I love what you just said. That's actually a really, really good description of both of those situations.
Yeah. All right, we have some super chats to get to. What did we get today? Here, James Flying Indigo says, "Do you guys think Curry could win MVP if top 2 seed? Why not? When you talk about value, if you can climb all the way to a top 2 seed in the Western Conference, talk about value. That guy's gravity is unbelievable, and he delivers. He just delivers big moments over and over again.
I'll go a step further. If they're top 2, he's either going to be MVP or runner-up.
Yeah.
Because I don't think anybody
listen,
here's why. I don't think anybody from the Boston Celtics, Cleveland Cavaliers are going to win MVP of this league. Yeah. So if they're number 2 in the West, it's because they're number 2 to who? Oklahoma City, maybe Phoenix, I don't know, maybe Denver. Who knows who that would be? In which case, that team's best player is probably going to be MVP. But if Curry finishes second in the West, yes, absolutely book it. He would have a great chance at winning an MVP.
I agree. And I think there's a chance it happens. Carlos Hernandez says, "Do y'all think these past 3 losses for the Mavs will help them? They've lost the past games by 7 points combined. There is something to losing close games, man. You don't want it to happen too long. I personally don't know if I will say I think the Mavs are going to be a lot better over their next 10 games than they were the first 10. That's all I can say about that.
I agree with that. I think right now, yeah, we're going to look at them completely differently, by Christmas. I think we're going to view them a lot differently. But listen, I think there is something to be said for the way you close games and being smarter about the way you close games on both ends of the floor. And there's you're talking about the difference in probably 5 possessions I could point to total in the 3 games, and they're 3-0 in those games. If any of those possessions go differently. And so there is something about making winning plays in this league and being smart about how you do it. And I don't know that they have handled those situations very well. And they need to learn from that if they want to actually break through and win a championship.
There we go. Oh yeah, we got a shout out real quick for your game tonight. So you are in LA. What do you got here? Oh, look at that. We got a nice little lower third for you. What do you know? We got
this. James putting in some overtime, man.
There you go, man.
Put the graphics up there. I like it, James. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Now I'm excited, man. Listen, obviously I would love to have seen Ja going tonight, but I think unlike last Friday night when it was the Sixers-Lakers, I was in the same building and the Sixers were playing with just Paul George, no Maxey, no Embiid. You knew and it was a good first half, and you knew eventually the Lakers were too much, and then, of course, they pull away in the third quarter. It's basically a 20-point game for the most part the rest of the way. It's kind of what we expected. I actually think Memphis is going to be able to hang in this game even without Ja Morant. So I'm really excited to see Memphis for the first time, and obviously the Lakers are always entertaining to play, assuming AD plays.
And your guy, Scottie Pippen Jr., man. Maybe tomorrow you could play. I played the Dyson Daniels card. Maybe tomorrow we play the Scottie Pippen Jr. card. Everybody, if you're new to the show, I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. You get an hour long of deep dive hoops talk right here 4 times a week. We're back tomorrow. We're back Friday. You're not going to want to miss it. Hit that like button for us on the way out. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. We'll see you tomorrow.
all silly like the mayor.